Greetings, my fellow phone cases. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make noteblock songs. Now, music production in itself is it's not exactly what I'm going to try to teach you today, because that's a big set of skills that you need to learn over time. Noteblocks. What are noteblocks? This is going to be for people who may not even play Minecraft or not that much. Noteblocks are a redstone component in Minecraft, just like the wiring system, that when powered, so it makes a sound. Now it ranges from what is it, F flat, F sharp, something, whatever that is. I don't know music theory. It goes up 2 octaves. So it's 25 note span. I was just right clicking on it. And I can power it, and it repeats that note whenever I want it to, as long as I give it power. So the torch right there, it's powering the block next to it, which is a note block. And then you tick it one more time and it resets. So that means I gotta teach you a little bit of redstone in order to be able to make strings of note blocks, because that is how you can get creative with them and make actual music. However, there are multiple sounds a note block can make, and that is dependent on what's underneath them. See, iron block makes that sound. Not all blocks have a particular sound. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to show you all the different sounds. Okay, so we're in my machine. I'll tell you all about this later. We have the different blocks that make the different sounds. So this is piano. This is all at the lowest pitch. Piano, just dirt, air, basically anything. Wood, it's like bass. Kick drum, stone, sand, the snare thing. Glass is like this annoying hi-hat sound that I don't like. Talk or something. I don't know. Guitar, wool. Plays flute. Ice is a chime. It's really nice. A reverby chime. This is basically a bell, gold block. Bone block. They call it the xylophone. Iron block, which we saw. I don't know what that's called. These are all new blocks to me. They're added kind of recently. Soul sand is something. It's iron. There's a pumpkin. What? Video game sound. Amazing. Square wave kind of thing. That's a emerald block. This is the banjo. Hay bale. And glowstone is the harp. So we have all these different sounds available to us. No more, no less. However, I will be doing a separate video showing how to make your own resource packs, which will let you substitute these existing sounds with their own sounds from FL Studio or something. Probably like plucky instruments work a lot better. And I'll also show you how to get a useful tool for building called World Edit, which will let you do incredibly useful things, such as copying and pasting this circuit. Such as copying and pasting this circuit. There we go. Another thing about note blocks is that you can't have any sort of block on top of them or it won't make the sound. Watch. So you'd skip that one. And it's not just this kind of block. It's absolutely anything in the square, even a button on a different block. It will refuse to play. So if you're having issues with that, make sure there's no things on top of your note blocks. And some blocks, like sand, they fall. So when I show you this machine, you want to make these sand ones on the bottom layer, unless you have plenty of vertical room, like your next layer's up here or something. Then you can go like this. In order to know how to wire up note block loops, we must understand a little bit of redstone. Now, this is incredibly complicated, and not because the circuit itself is complicated. It's because Minecraft Redstone, is their wiring system, has a bunch of insane, senseless rules. So this is a torch. The torch is complicated, but we're just going to keep it here. This is powering the block next to it, which is a wire. You can see that the wire itself looks like this, but when it's connected to something, it kind of warps to it like that. And it doesn't warp this way because there's nothing there. It's still nothing. So what does that mean? Nothing. Nothing for now. Redstone signals can go 15 blocks. This is a power source. From a power source can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then it's like almost black. It won't emit particles. It's like that. Now, how do you make it go further? That's kind of useless. How would I make a machine with this? You need to add something called a repeater. A repeater you place in the direction your signal is going. So I'm going from this torch. I want to go down. I put it at the last point where the signal still exists, right there. And it refreshes it. So I can go again. I can make this wire go anywhere. You know, the repeater there. I could go like this. Go this way now. Squiggly line. Go like this. I can't go like this. The signal in the repeater must go in this side and must come out this side, like this. No, look connected like that. Cool. Let's bring the signal back there. Whoa. Also, you'll notice this thing. You right click on a single dust, it does that. That's useless. I don't know why they added that. Right. It's not useless, but it's like, why? Anyway, bringing the signal back. Making a big line with the repeaters. So I can go all the way. Okay. Here we go. So now when I unpower this torch by deleting it, this will no longer have a power source. Therefore, the wire will go dead. And then it'll reach here, and this will also be dead. And therefore, this will turn off, and everything else will turn off. And you'll notice something. Did you see that? It takes a very short amount of time for every repeater to go from one side to this side of the signal. It's called delay. That's one of the great things about a repeater. Here's another thing about a repeater. It can only send a signal in the way that it's pointing. So if I try to put something in, it won't go through the other side. You can see like little arrow shape, kind of. Right? Interesting. Okay. So repeaters, they serve two purposes, and three purposes. They can refresh a signal that is weak at the end of a wire. They can make current only go one way, like this. And the third purpose is the delay. You might be wondering, or maybe not wondering, why is there like this line? Well, that is on purpose. And what you do is you right click on a repeater and look. Now it takes a little longer for it to reach the other side. And even longer. And even longer. Now the point of this is adjustable delay. How do we measure this? What setting is what? It's very precise, actually. There are 20 ticks, they call it, per second in Minecraft. That's the time it takes for something to update. A redstone tick is 2 game ticks. So 1/10 of a second, 10 hertz, that kind of thing. A repeater, if you just place it down and it's in this position, it creates 1 tick of delay. 1/10 of a second. If you right click it, now it's 2/10 of a second. Call that 2 ticks. 3 ticks. 4 ticks. You know, 4/10 of a second. And if you right click it again, it just goes back. Kind of like the noteblocks. Now, that is where it comes into play with noteblocks. Okay, so we have a few notes, like so. Right, I want to press all those buttons. Well, I can actually have a repeater power a block like this, and the signal kind of goes through here invisibly, like an invisible wire. I'm going to make this 4 ticks, because that seems a good delay for the notes that I want. And in comparison to like a beat or a metronome, I'm saying the metronome is like 4 ticks. So the other kind of beat that you could do is not 4 ticks, but 6 ticks. And this is like 100 BPM as opposed to 150 BPM, which is 4 ticks. And your spacing between note blocks then will look like this. It'll be 2 wide. It's a little weird, but it works. And that's your best option if you just want a different tempo. This is also good for like triplets. You could have 3 2-tick repeaters per beat, for example. Well, you get the idea. They can go through the note blocks. They can power them in an order, in a sequence. That's great. Let's talk about the specifics of these repeaters going through that, because we talked about wires, and it's kind of different. Here's the rules of going through a block, basically. When you power a repeater like this, you can send a signal through a block that's called opaque, not transparent. Transparent is something like it's not a full block. It doesn't allow, you know. And the only transparent blocks that are actually note block sounds, which still won't matter because we're powering the note blocks, those are opaque. It's glass. Oh, and glowstone. But you get the idea. And since it's down here, it's powering through the note block, so it doesn't matter. You can still get to the other side. We can also do this. So the signal, it kind of weakly powers it through here, and the repeater has like strong detection, basically. It can pull that weak signal through the block. And by signal, I don't mean like the strength of the wire. I mean like the invisible mechanic going through this, the type of power it provides to the block. It's wizardry, it's witchcraft. I don't understand why it has to be that way, but it is. If you have redstone wire going through like this, it applies a weak signal into here, and the redstone cannot detect a weak signal. It can only detect a strong signal. So it doesn't go through at all. Another thing that won't work with wire is you can have it go up and down. So you can have like a ladder, like that. But you can actually pinch off the wire and it won't work anymore. So it can't reach through here. Now it does. So as long as you have at least one repeater on each side, where the wire is solid, you'll get your signal through a block. Now let's dig into this a little deeper. So we can go straight through a block like this. And also I should mention that it's not going to power through this. Like, you can't retrieve a signal through 2 blocks, it's only 1. And by the way, a note block, it can listen to a signal coming from a block, just like a repeater can. So this will power and this will power, or these two will power at the same time, because this one gets, a lot of the strong signal from the repeater. However, you can then see that you can't power through blocks indefinitely. Like, it'll only go to those 2, or in this case, these 3. This is like the main powered block, and these are the ones that are touching it. Nice. Also, loud. So, there's a lot more than I let on about powering blocks. Here I'm going to have our repeater going through here. Now, in practice, wires actually power the blocks beneath them. So you could take the weak signal that's provided by the redstone, and you could draw it off the repeater. And just because it's a weak signal, you cannot siphon off power just by having redstone like that. And that's kind of helpful. This whole pinching off thing really works in that way. So we're siphoning power from the block under the redstone. We cannot siphon power from the top of it, because the repeater is specifically looking at whatever's in this location. This redstone is actually in this location. It's not on here, it's on top of these blocks. It's just really thin block metal. So this doesn't power. Well, maybe that's a good thing. Now we can think of how we can cross 2 wires even at a small height like this, like just 1 block up. We can have a block, we can have a wire, and this wire feeds into the block, but not the redstone below it. That's weak signal. But the repeater can see it, but it's a strong signal. Yeah! And once again, to enforce that, repeaters only listen to this particular block. You can see that it doesn't work here, it doesn't work here, etc. Now, when we power a block like this with a repeater, we're technically powering everything in like a flower shape, I guess. Like here. We power here, 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 and here. So that's with the strong signal. So we can take a wire from here. We could get the signal from here. We get it from up here, even if it's blocked off. In this case, if it's blocked off or not, it won't make a difference because they're from the same power source anyway. Whoa. Technology. We cannot siphon from a repeater from the bottom or the top because the repeater only accepts, input from this side. However, it will be powered from this block, not this block. So it still works. This doesn't work because, again, no power here. But these work because now we're taking power off of this block, which is a weak signal inside of it. Now let's talk about making wires that go up and down. That is something you're going to have to do once in a while. Maybe not in the machine, but it's possible. Anything's possible. And knowledge is power. The more you know about doing these wires, the more you can get away with in the same space. So this is a wire. It goes up. And because there's no repeaters or anything, it can also go down just as easily. And it's going up because the redstone connects to things one block above it. I can't go like this, and it won't work. It just doesn't connect. What if you wanted to make this really long vertical wire? There are many ways we can approach this. This is just like the horizontal and vertical approach. Our signal dies here. However, realize that when we put a repeater here, it's not going to do anything for us. What we have to do is we have to make a little shelf of 2 blocks, like that. And then the repeater can accept the signal from here. And we're going up. Once again, we're connecting to this block, strong power, and we'll take power from the top of the redstone. And we keep going. Now, in the case of wire that's going down, and it's really long, we'll have a similar situation. This time, our input side is just fine. On this repeater, it can take power from that block, but it doesn't power here. However, there is a solution. And it's as simple as putting a block on top of here, because then the strong signal is able to power this. So down wires don't need that horizontal shelf that I showed you, but up wires do. Now this is just one of many ways that you can make a vertical wire. There's another way, which a lot of people, it's the most straightforward way. That's spiral, 2 by 2, just going up like this. It's spaced out enough that blocks don't get pinched off, but it keeps going up. Okay. So again, you have to have like a shelf because we're going up, but we'd have to have a shelf going down as well. And you'll see why. We can't just keep the spiral shape if we have to use a repeater. We have to go like this. And signal goes in, powers the block, which powers the dust, which goes up. And that's how we can keep going with the spiral. And to make this go down, all we need to do is change this repeater like this. And this repeater will take the weak signal from this block, from this redstone, and then power this, and it works just fine. This is probably one of the more useful ways to transfer signals downwards. There we go. Now consider the following. We have our wire that's going up. Those are old, horizontal, vertical kind of wire. And it goes up and it uses this repeater here. Well, what if we don't want to have it going forever that way? It's kind of large and annoying. Might get us further from our destination and closer to it. Well, part of thinking in terms of redstone involves taking advantage of its properties. And right here, we would normally have this pinched off if we put a block there. However, since this repeater powers the block underneath it and the redstone can retrieve a signal from it, we can put a block here and the signal keeps going. Which means we can then take this signal and extend it this way instead. This is called the zigzag approach. And we can keep doing that back and forth as much as we want. And we don't have to have it 15 long. We could have it like 2 or 3 long if we wanted to. The same is true if we want to go backwards. Fortunately, all we'd have to do in this case is flip the repeater because we already have a way to power the repeater. We already have a place for the wire to go. And we don't actually need that shelf anymore if we did that. We just go like this. Like that. there's yet another way to make vertical wires. This is specifically for vertical. We can use inverted slabs or glass or any transparent block that we can put redstone on top of. Glowstone is also a pretty common one to make a zipper shape like this. Now this is just one of those bizarre redstone mechanics. You can place wire on top of a block. You can place wire on top of a transparent block, or most transparent blocks. But transparent blocks, like I was showing, they don't allow a signal through it. Like this. What I didn't tell you is that you can still go around it. Like you can have the wire go up the glowstone and connect. Now this is a very unusual property of wire going up on transparent blocks. It's one of those weird rules of redstone, is that it can't go down. In that sense, it's a lot like a repeater. And you have input, output, and let stuff go in one way, but not the other. Electronics, we call that a diode. Also, this is faster than a repeater, but doesn't refresh the signal strength. So, if you ever want to do this just to have a diode, this is a great way to do it. And this is mechanic part 2. We cannot pinch off a redstone wire with a transparent block. It will let it pass through anywhere, because it treats the block mechanically like it's not even there. What does that mean? This means we can create a never-ending zipper of redstone, and it just connects upwards only. Observe. Ooh. Now eventually, if we ran out, and this happens a lot with this design, just because it's the most favored for making very tall wires, you have to make this ugly looking extension thing. I'll show you. Put a block here, put a repeater there, and you put redstone like that. You don't need this anymore. And I don't know if it was obvious or not, but I just wanted to point this out. When you have a wire and it's powered, you can draw off from many places at once. Right? Like this. That's pretty cool. So I can power 4 different things with the same signal. And I could give different delays for each one, like this. And see. Ooh. Conversely, we can have 4 different things power the same wire. Not just 4, it could be pretty much any number. So we can go like this. Or this. And if one of these is on, it basically ignores the other one because it's already on. I wanted to show you one thing you might consider doing when you're building inside this machine. You can have one delay like this. Let's say that's 4 ticks. We'll have another wire like this. Then we're going to have 8 ticks. 4 ticks, and then 8 times 4 ticks. That's what I meant. So 8 beats, 150 BPM noteblocks on. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. And now that this is also 4 ticks just to get there, I have to do delay compensation for that repeater. It's just matching it. So now if I power this signal really quickly, like that, get pulse. And another pulse. Cool. So that could be used if you want to repeat 8 beat long thing. And then I can just power it. Ugh. Cool. Very useful. Now, you won't have to do this, most likely, inside the machine, because I have levers that you can pull down in one of the areas that will automatically do this for you. So what if you want to make this loop turn on a bunch of times, indefinitely, forever and ever? Like, this would be useful if you're testing noteblock loops, for example. You can build this. This is called a redstone clock. And it's not something you tell time with. Well, you could use it to that in some way. But clock meaning it puts out a pulse at a definite interval. Every X amount of seconds or a fraction of a second, it outputs a pulse. So we pulse it here, and it will keep going around in circles forever and ever. One row of repeaters goes this way, the other row goes the other way. So what if you want this clock running around and around forever, or you don't want to manually start it and stop it each time? Well, what you can do is build this little circuit. I can't really go into details because it's a lot of things I would need to talk about. We place a piston, a sticky piston, like this. The direction it faces when you place it depends on where you look at it. Like, if I'm placing it here, the piston faces towards me. If I'm placing it here, the piston faces towards me. Just like that. Place a block on this piston. Place a block under this block. Place a redstone torch under here, like this. Place a repeater here on 2 ticks. And then you place a wire like this that has to point into this piston. Now, technically, this is pointing into it. I mean, you could power it like this, for example. But if you're making it on a wire, you need to have it like that. But what this will do, you'll see, is it'll make a pulse that goes into here, and as it's going around, this block will be extended, and it'll just keep reusing that pulse until you unflip the lever. Ooh. Useful. Now there's one more thing, and you may not want to do this, you don't have to do this, but when we're inside this noteblock machine, I'm going to show you real quick. Take a look at how the room is arranged. The listening area is up here. The note blocks are going to go to your left ear and your right ear, and it'll be a little bit of a different volume. It's not much, and the room size is designed to make that negligible, at least in terms of volume. But sometimes you might just want the kick in one place, for example. So if we wanted to really do that, we could have a kick drum like right here. And if our kick is simple enough, like just, once per beat every time, we can use this little circuit up here. So this uses a lot of things I haven't explained yet, in particular these comparators. But you don't need them to make a noteblock, so I'm just showing you what this does. So I'm going to use a trick here. If you place a torch on a redstone block, you get a 1-tick pulse because the torch turns off. Yeah, if you're wondering what torches do, then when you power a torch or the block, when you power the block that a torch is on, the torch turns off. And you can get into some crazy redstone by doing this. Like inverters, logic gates, like this is an AND gate. Anyway, we're not covering that in this video. But yes, we're going to place a torch here. So we get 8 beats. That's good. These are slower beats. And I'm going to let you take a look at this machine. It's configured like this. And this is for 100 BPM, 6 ticks per beat. If you want 4 ticks per beat, which is probably more common, you can go like this. I haven't actually tested this. So, I broke the comparator in the redstone. No, no, no. No, wait, okay. You go like this. Yes. And then you turn this 2-tick repeater into a 1-tick repeater. Now, cool. And you just hook this up like a normal loop and use the machine inside that machine that does what I showed you earlier, this thing. So you only need it to be 8 ticks like this. But what if you don't want the kick for all 8 beats? You could cut it off early. For example, the way this works is it stores signal strength, not like through a block signal strength, like high or low, but this is like 0 to 15. So when I power it with the repeater, it only goes 1 block far, that's 15. However, if I were to do 13, which looks like this, the signal goes 15, 14, 13. That's 7. And if I wanted to do like 5, which is something I would use, more likely, I'd just go like this. And see that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Redstone dust long. No particular shape, just as long as it's that long. So this is a melody, yes. Okay. And it's kind of long. And in some areas of this machine, you will have to conserve space. Like this is large. Whoa, no, that's bad. Well, in some cases, we can make this a lot smaller. I'll show you how. This is the same noteblock loop. The signal goes through here, goes through there. You can see the note blocks are right next to each other practically, but they're not powering each other because they're diagonal. Same with the repeaters, although repeaters only accept from this side only, where that note block is. But because this repeater is recessed and this repeater going back in is further out, we can make this alternating shape where the wire goes up and powers that repeater through the block it's on. And then it can do the same thing, but on a lower level, 1 block lower. And it does not get powered by this wire, because that's impossible. It goes around and does not power this wire either, because that's impossible. And it goes back in. That works great. This alternating structure you see here can solve that problem for you. The only caveat with this design, then, is that this can't work with loops that are less than 2 ticks at this particular spot. You need 2 ticks because you need 2 repeaters here, and the least amount of delay you can have is like this. So it goes here and then here. This is 3 ticks then. So if we have a faster loop than this, does that mean we can't do that? Well, we can't do this exactly, but we can still accomplish that. A very small area for a loop to exist. And that's what I did here. Now it's a little more ugly on this side, but how it works, I'm just going to ignore this particular part. how it works is we have a signal coming here. It's 4 ticks. And these are all this is all the same melody, but split into 4 different parts. Not this melody, a different melody. And the 4 parts, and it goes here, and then this is 2 4-tick repeaters long, so 8 ticks. So my delay compensation, because I had that here, and then an extra 8 ticks. And here, this is also 8 ticks long. So we had 8 ticks, and then another 8 ticks. And then we had 8 ticks and 8 ticks and 8 ticks. And that gives us something that looks like this. Do it like this. Cool. So they're all being powered and they all come in at the right times. Feel free to reference this video if you get stuck on that or need insight on how to make the wires. Now let's make a beat. Yes. You have a beat alongside it. So what I just did there is have a button, which basically is like the torch, it provides power. Now, to make sure your loops fire at the same time, you want to make sure that this repeater, or the path to this repeater, takes the same amount of time to get there as this repeater. So that may seem really stupid at first, but when you have something like this large, right, and we have a repeater all the way over here, we start to have issues. Right? Here's signal 1, here's signal 2, and here's the button that will activate them both at the same time. So this one should reach by itself. It's 12 long. Good. But if we want to reach this one, this wire, that's going to be tricky. Right? Because it doesn't reach. Well, first I'm going to make sure I know where to place the repeater. I can place it earlier. I could place it like here if I wanted to, if it was convenient, but I can't place it ahead of this. So I can just go like this. And now it reaches. However, if I now try to make a 4-to-the-floor drum beat like this, and it doesn't really matter what block the repeater has under it. You can just use the same as the loop material, the note block. Whatever's under it. This is stone, it's going to be our kick drum. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we will hear. Oh, that's bad. This played slightly late. You hear that? And that's because the total delay getting through this wire is 1 tick longer than this one. How can we solve that? We call this delay compensation. You can do it in a bunch of ways. You could add one repeater that's 1 tick long, like this. See, now it's fixed. Or I could just leave this how it is. I could tick this 1. Because a repeater you can add more delay to a repeater. So this is 2 ticks. This is 1 tick and 1 tick. So it adds up. Now, what if you want to have a note block that starts like kick bass, something like that? You know, you don't want it to start synchronized on purpose. go like this. Oh, let's make our 4-tick repeaters. This. And we'll hear, since it's still synchronized, it's kick and bass at the same time. Ew. Mix it. So we have this offset. I just added 2 ticks to it. It was 2, now it's 4. And this is still 2. Yeah! Much better. And I could do it a bunch of ways, like I was showing. 1, 2, 3, 1. That's still 4, that's still 2. I could have it 2, I could have 2 and 2 like that. You get the idea. Very useful. Now, traditionally, note block songs have been made by combining note blocks on the same line. Like, they would never have a second line like I have here. They would have something like this, but they would... here, I'll just build it. Stop being confusing here. So they would have something like this. They'd use 2-tick repeaters. They'd put their kick here, 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 and their bass here, 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 here. So achieve the same result. There. Yeah. So it can still alternate. There's no rule saying you have to only use one instrument in a loop. Another thing you can do, you can have more than one note block triggered at the same part. How? You can place it on the side, so it can actually still be powered just by being alongside it. So here's a snare. Here's the basic SoundCloud rapper dance tune. I don't know. Like this. I like tuning my snares up 7 notes. Sometimes 8. It sounds more proper to me. And of course I can change the bass notes to be something more interesting. So that's how note block songs are usually made. Just a lot of that, a lot of different notes at the same time attached to one big delay line. And here's how we build ours. Destroy. Now I'm going to do something that we haven't done before. And have our delay compensating for this stuff, which is 2 ticks, because remember, we have this one purposely offset. This is the actual point where our loop starts. See, 1, 2. So I'm going to set this to 2 ticks because it doesn't need this repeater. And then I'm going to set this to 4 ticks, so it goes 1 beat off. It skips it. So kick, snare, kick, snare. That's not a note block shaft. I can place 2 repeaters like this. I'm going to keep doing that. So every 2 beats, it does the snare. Yes. Oh, I forgot to tick these. I'm going to put the button up here. This actually powers the wire from down here, which is funny. We have like this. That should do it. Cool. Now here's the thing. Our beat right now is kind of monotone. Everything's at a predictable pace. You probably don't want that when you're making music. So how can we do better? Well, I'm looking at this repeater, and I know that if I want to keep synchronized with the beat, I need something that totals 8 ticks each, like bar or something. Watch. Actually, it'd be half a bar. I can go like this. I want to place a snare like before the ending snare that I had before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8. So that's how you adjust timings and make interesting beats and melodies. The last thing I want you to notice about these note blocks is that when I play them and I stand closer to them, the volume's about consistent. Directional, left to right, but overall pretty consistent. However, when I stand further away from them, you can see the kick went away almost entirely, and these two were still pretty audible. The hearing range between a player and a note block is 40 blocks until it completely disappears. So now I'm going to tell you why I built the machine and why I think it is better than Noteblock Studio. If you don't know, Noteblock Studio is a program that builds a Noteblock song into Minecraft in a very inefficient fashion by writing MIDI in the program. Inefficient, I mean you literally have to ride a minecart to follow all the note blocks, or you will not hear most of the song. And the reason it's inefficient is because it doesn't repeat anything. It just adds new note blocks. When I started FL Studio in 2014, I realized very quickly that trying to compose an entire song in one pattern like this sucks. I mean, you go forever. Oh, what did I do? I don't know. Well, you can keep going forever and ever and ever. And eventually you'll have something that repeats. Like that. And if you don't just loop it, like go back from 9 to 1, like you're supposed to, you just keep going and going and going, writing these notes in one big pattern. It takes a while and it sucks. Why would you do that to yourself? So that's why we have loops like this. Individual instrument loops. Yes. That can be played by themselves and can be re-triggered. We're going to make our first SoundCloud rapper song. How? We're going to have our repeaters just to make sure the signal gets there. I'm going to have something called a piston, which can be very complicated, but we're going to use it in a simple way. These pistons extend when you power them. Instead of a torch, I'll use redstone block. Whatever it touches gets powered. Whoa! That's useful because we know wire can go into a block and power a repeater. But if there's no block, it can't get power. We don't need these then to do anything. Let's connect these all together. And now let's make a loop. They call this a redstone clock. I'm going to have the same amount of beats as our loops have, which is 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Other way, 5, 6, 7, 8. And connect the ends like that. So it will go in a circle forever until we stop it like that. Now, since our beats are 4 ticks, it will be synchronized. Whenever this pulses, it will have reached the end in perfect timing. Let's try it. This is our base. Oops. Well, I triggered it early. Now it should be in sync. See, it's perfectly looping. Now we can add the kick. Oh, no. Screwed up. That's not the kick. Okay, I don't care. And don't ask how that's happening, it just does. There. Yeah! I can have, like, I can pull stuff back. Snare. And at long last, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with this tutorial. This tutorial will have taught you, or hopefully have taught you, wiring in Minecraft, some simple circuits that work with the wiring, and how to incorporate wiring with note blocks, and how to make note block strings like this. So, I hope that was helpful. You actually learned a lot more than you might think, because the whole premise of wiring in Minecraft covers a lot of ground with Redstone as a whole. But yes. Next tutorial will be installing World Edit and making resource paths for custom sounds. And after that, I'll be assembling these loops into this machine and showing you how to use the actual machine. So that said, thank you all for watching. And as always, bye!